I'm back. This is Eric G, and I was gonna stop for today. I was gonna stop for today and wait for tomorrow instead, but I'm gonna do one more video before I go and be done. So uh, this next thing is called calling the warrior within, or calling on all the warriors to stand up. Where was it? All right. So calling all the warriors to stand up. So are you a warrior or not? So when fear, so it's probably going to be talking about fear, which I've talked about before, maybe not in this book, but a different book that was all about fear. So when fear reigns in us, it leaves us in a prison of waiting with no hope of release. We start to believe the intermediate thoughts of the enemy that come into our head. And if we continue in that vein, we will never be ready for what God is calling us to do. So God will keep calling you and calling you, but if fear reigns in you, then it will leave you without hope, and God you will not hear, because the enemy has already been in your head because of fear. So while you cannot say, I would have been as bold or patient, one of the most important things is to guard my mind. So if that's you, then the most important thing about fear is guarding your mind. So we have to develop a patience of evicting thoughts of fear. So those thoughts of fear, let's see. Basically, those thoughts of fear, we should not let them take up space in your mind, or let them enter the room of your mind. You have to shift your thoughts in another direction when fear comes in to invade. But sometimes we are in the grip of fear without naming it. So can you name the grip of fear that you're in, whatever it is? Can you name it? So maybe you are stagnant and we label it waiting when in fact we are hiding. So maybe fear, we say, oh, I'm just waiting. But really, you're just hiding because you don't want to do whatever it is that you're afraid of. So it's not waiting, it's hiding. Maybe you have never been there before. Maybe you have. So deep in your hearts, you hold dreams that you can't break out of your own chains of insecurity and self-doubt. That's very true, that we need to always break out of those insecurities and self-doubts in life, because some people I don't think will ever, or they have that stuck, they have the insecurities and self-doubt stuck in their life because they're too fearful of whatever it is. So you might be able to see there is plenty to be done now, but you just can't seem to push through the fear. Where can you begin and how? So maybe you see what needs to be done, but because you have fear, you cannot push through it. So in Exodus 3, so in Exodus 3, Moses had been in exile from Egypt, living in the desert. He had run away from his home after murdering an Egyptian slave master. The Hebrew people who he'd been trying to help held it against him in contempt. The very people he was trying to save were the people that made him run from Egypt in fear. So in Exodus 3:4, God called him by name, Moses, Moses. And today God is calling you, whoever your name is, Yeah, Exodus 3:4. So God is calling you by name, whoever your name is. Name, whatever your name is. Today, God has called you by name. Has called you. God is calling you by name. You may have ignored him the first time or wasted a few years, but today you hear heaven calling you by name once more. Now is the time to say, "Here I am. Here I am." So I'll just use my name. God is calling me, Eric, which is a common name. I'm pretty sure most people are named that. It's calling me, and I need to respond by saying, "Here I am." Not by responding, by just waiting. Because if I just respond and say I'm waiting, it's because I'm really running. Because of what? Fear has taken over my thoughts. So every time God is calling my name, Eric, I need to respond with, "Here I am. What do you need from me? Here I am. I'm ready." So why don't you say that right now in your heart? So I'll say that right now as I'm reading. Here I am. So the first thing to do in that moment is respond. So like I said, I need to respond with, "Here I am." And that's the first step when God calls my name. You don't have to pull all the pieces together. So even if you're waiting in the desert that seemed like a lost season has prepared you for this moment. So Moses' biggest mission didn't begin until he was 8. Where his first 8 decades a waste, or was God preparing him to change? So sometimes waiting feels like wandering. So just like Moses in the desert, sometimes we can feel like waiting is wandering in the desert. So we know Moses dealt with fear that he wasn't worthy, that he'd be insignificant, that no one would follow him. He had no reference or ability to even comprehend what God was about to do through him. So maybe you have one of those fears where is it? Maybe you have those fears of being ineffective and that nobody will follow you. So you choose to not do it because you feel like that's going to happen. But God is going to do something through you that you never knew before. God is going to use you in ways that you've never seen before. But it all transpired in the third phase of his life, which tells me that you don't have to fear that God can't use you, and there's no telling what God can do for you next. So I shouldn't have fear that God will not use me, and I never know what he's going to do next. So you are not late today. So I am not late today for God to respond with, "God, here I am." So don't let fear or failure stop you from answering the call. So when God calls your name, don't let fear be stopping you from answering when he's calling you. Let's see. Alright, so how do you hear the voice of God? Get to know him, seek him, and spend time with him. Read his word in prayer, and you will come to know his voice. So those are very important things. If you want to hear the voice of God, first you got to get to know him, then you got to seek him, then you got to spend time with him, then you got to read his word, and then you got to pray. And when you follow those orders, you're going to start to hear his voice. Like John 10:4 says, "Follow him, for they know his voice." So when you do, it will become a joy of life. source of your soul like it was for a job. And he wrote in Job 23:12, I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my portion of food. So when you sense him calling you into something new he is doing, honor him with your full attention and open heart. So God revealed himself to Moses at the burning bush in Exodus 3. He told Moses, take off your shoes, this is holy ground. God was conveying to Moses, this is not an ordinary moment, so awkward to the importance of his presence. Place you stand. Give reverence when God is moving. So when God is moving, it's time for me to give reverence when it happens. So God is looking for men and women who recognize the urgency of that kind of moment, who don't delay in response when God calls you. So if God is calling you now, maybe you are being delayed or putting it off or ignoring it. But if you are, then he's only seeking the ones that will answer, not seeking the ones that won't. So he will call your name, and if you don't respond with here I am, that's okay, because he's not seeking people who are going to answer. He's seeking the ones that will answer, but he's not seeking the ones that will not answer. So when God called him to leave his country, Jacob said, here I am. Samuel said, here I am. Isaiah prophet said, here I am. Ameneus said, here I am. God seeks individuals with path that weaves together in the story he is telling. He also calls us to surrender with a heart that says, I'm not running away, I'm worshiping. I'm not cowering in fear. I get lost in your love and move forward with your spirit. So God is looking for people who will answer every time he calls. And the people who don't, he's not looking for people who are not going to answer when he calls their name. So the deepest reason for courage. When Moses heard God calling his name, he also answered, here I am. But after hearing God's big plan for him, Moses had questioned, who am I that I should go to the Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? It was a supernatural moment of purpose when suddenly the music stopped. Who am I? Why me? I'll be there with you was God's answer. Who are you? Moses asked next. I am who I am. God pronounced with authority. So that verse, I am who I am. So perhaps you're thinking, what in the world does that mean? That doesn't help me clarify anything for Moses. So what does that mean when God says, I am that I am? So it's very important that you take time to discover what it means, because the two most important questions he will answer in life the two most important questions you'll have to answer in life is, who am I and who are you, God? There is only one voice that can answer both of those questions, and it is the voice who spoke all creation into existence. So he's the one who sent Moses to rescue the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. So our Father saw humility in our misery. So God sees humility in your misery. Or does God see humility in your misery? When you're going through misery, do you have humility? He heard your cries, or our cries, or your cries, or my cries. So, moved by his deep love, he sent his son to rescue us, and Jesus gave everything so we would know who God is and who we are in him. Rick something put it this way: it is only in God that we discover our origin, our identity, our meaning, our purpose, significance, and our destiny. Every other path leads to a dead end. So it's only God that we discover everything, basically. All those things is we discover through God. And if we don't discover those through God, then we basically have been at a dead end, or we're going to stay at a dead end if we don't discover everything through God. So, dead end, like at a loss about what makes you, why you're here, and what you're made for. So we all have our own versions of that. So we all have our own versions of, or people have their own beliefs about why they're here and what made them, or what they're made for and why they're here. People have their own beliefs about that. So it's hard to find a clear answer in the world, at least. So our culture is obsessed with identity. Everyone is searching for their sense of distinction and significance, processing every step publicly instead of letting transformation occur inwardly. So that's very important, that all the transformation that I do in my life, it needs to happen inwardly, but also outwardly, but not so much outwardly. I mean, things are going to change outwardly. On the outside, things are going to change, but it's more important about how I change my life from the inside. So our identity comes from knowing who God is. So my identity is knowing who God is. I know my identity because I know God, and I know my identity. I'm not stuck in the world looking for a false identity, looking for a fake identity, looking for a disguise, because I'm not part of the world. I don't follow what the world does. I keep up with what God does, and my identity is who God is, and that's where I find my identity, is having the relationship with God, so I know who I am. And that's why Moses, when questioned himself, God answered, "I will be with you." Jesus fulfilled God's distinctive statement, and like the verse says, "I am who I am," when he made 7 powerful I am statements during his earth. So God made 7 statements that he says, I am. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. And of course, the one that everybody knows. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the true vine. So when you discover that Jesus is, and when you discover who Jesus truly is, that he is life, death, and resurrection, that bridge between the two questions gets answered. You can't answer who I am until you answer who is he. So I cannot answer who I am if I don't know who he is. So the message of Jesus says, because I died not for you, but as for you, and because I came out of the tomb, not for you, but as for you, everything I have has now become yours. So today you can boldly declare, today you can boldly declare, or today I can boldly declare. So today I declare that I am forgiven. Today I declare that I am justified. Today I declare that I am a new creation. Today I declare I am healed by his wounds. Today I declare that I am bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. And there's a couple other ones, but... Or you can declare that I am a child of God. I am a heir of God. I am led by the Spirit of God. So when we forget who we are, take a moment to consider all those things. So have you forgotten who God says you are? So he says it again. He calls you by name again. So he's calling my name, Eric. Have you forgotten who you say that I am? Or Eric, have you forgotten the words that I say about who you are? So have you ignored his call, running away and hiding? But again he calls. So maybe I might run and hide, but again he's calling me, Eric, have you forgotten who I say that you are? Let's see. Receive the strength you need to walk, to know that all he says about you is true. You are not who God says you are. Only when you reach your goals, succeed in the eyes of others, You are an overcomer and a conqueror right now. So God is always telling me, remember, you are a conqueror right now. So, can you say it again? Let's see. Let's see. So there are truths that we need to hold on to. So do you need to hear the heart of your Father say it again today? He came with heaven to earth to tell you, I am with you. So you have His name. He has so much goodness ahead of you. Listen to Him. So Moses was leading his people out of slavery, facing the Red Sea and saying to God, I know you said it's at the burning bush, but can you say it again? And then God proclaimed, I am with you, before He split the Red Sea. So Moses leading the people into the wilderness and discovered that they had no food. God, can you say it again? And God sent manna from heaven to feed His people. So when Moses needed direction, maybe he repeated, Can you say it again? So maybe when you need direction, maybe you need to repeat it. Can you say it again? Then God sent the cloud day by fire by night. So what if you and I did the same? So what if we did the same as Moses? Is continually we need to repeat that, can you say it again? So the very same season in every step, we can ask God to tell us again and again who we are in Him. So if we need a reminder to God, we can always say it again, God, so I remember who I am. So the power of the wait, it leads us to see and know who doesn't turn away as we wait but stay close. So the daily office of surrounding our lives to God every moment and night reminds us that He is with us, that He is our source, and He wants His plan. So a waiting season surrender to God brings about more fruit than any mountaintop race in our own strength ever could. So perhaps you are in a season where you need the loving voice of God to remind you of who you are and who He is. So maybe you are hiding and you don't even realize it. And last point here, and I'm done. So while you listen to Him now, He is arranged this moment to speak His love over you again. So remember who He is, and you can remember who you are in Him, and you won't have to hide. You'll stand with freedom and strength, all because you are carrying the identity and love He has given you. And last point here, it all starts by simply saying, here I am. So I'm saying in this moment, here I am. I'm declaring in this moment, here I am, God. Just remind me who I am in you, and I never forget the strength that I have in you and the freedom that I have. And God is good, and that has been a truth factor.